Scene Daddy Interviews.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Ian, and normally I would continue on and say welcome to Scene Daddy Interviews, and I'd be interviewing an awesome guest from the scene of our music. But we want to expand the Scene Daddy podcast. So instead of only talking to an artist about music and maybe a little bit of whatever comes up, we wanted the ability to start doing podcasts where, you kind of shoot the shit with people, or you talk about politics or movies or something along those lines. For that, we've decided to call this, for now, Scene Daddy Conversations, because it will be a little bit different than Scene Daddy Interviews. You're going to see that in a second when I introduce this brand new episode. On this episode, I am going to be talking to Josh Hurst of the band Young Medicine. They just had a brand new album come out called Interlinked. Make sure you check that out. But until then, we're actually going to do this episode where we talk about the new movie, It Part 2. We're also going to talk about It Part 1, the miniseries, and the book. So watch out, because every spoiler possible is going to be in this episode. So if that kind of thing bugs you, go watch the movies, then come back and listen to this, because it is a lot of fun. But like I mentioned, these episodes are going to be a lot different than your standard Scene Daddy interviews. Just want to give you a little insight into what we're doing. I was just moving into a, brand new apartment, setting up a personal studio, which is why we took a little bit of a break. But we wanted to come back strong. We have more Scene Daddy interviews on the way, and we're going to have more episodes like this. Once again, name might change in the future due to marketing, but for right now, this is Scene Daddy Conversations. I'm talking to Josh Hurst, and we are going to go into everything it related. Enjoy. Welcome everyone to Scene Daddy Conversations. My name is Ian, and this is really cool. I've been waiting to do this for literally years. I've got Josh Hurst from the band Young Medicine. He is on the line right now. We are doing a great Google Hangout, and we are going to be talking about not only his awesome new album Interlinked, but then also we are going to really focus on not only the book, but the movie It. So Josh, man, first off, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good, dude. How about you?
Not too bad. I like the little studio action you've got going on there.
Oh, God. This is my work office.
That is really cool. Wait, so your work is actually allowing you to do this?
A few people from here helped me set it up, so I'm going to say yes. They helped me with stuff quite a bit.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, now, like I said, we've kind of been going back and forth for years. Now, I've never talked to you personally, but we've done a lot of talking on Facebook, like I said, over the years. I actually had Brett and Peter from Young Medicine on the show a long, long time ago when I was doing Ian Hates Music. So it's very cool to get a chance to catch up with you kind of in person, because we're doing this, via video and everything. So I think it's worked out pretty well so far. So before we start biting each other's heads off on everything, let's get a little bit of background. So It Part 2 just came out last week. Now, how far back do you go with either the book, the miniseries, the movies? Where were you? Did you actually read everything? Are you completely caught up?
So the first time I ever heard about it, I was at this kid's house. He was a neighbor down the road. I grew up in kind of like a rural area, and rode my bike It style to his place, actually, like 3 or 4 miles away, except it's dirt roads. It's not like a dairy type town.
Right.
And he was like, "Hey, have you ever seen it?" And I fucking hate that pun so much now, even though I make it. I was like,
you have to.
What do you mean? And he kept it up for like 5 minutes before he's like, "It the clown."
Ah, gotcha.
And I remember watching like half of it. Then the picture book scene kind of scared me. I was probably 11 or 12, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
And then I read the book when I was 16 or 17.
All right.
And I liked it, didn't probably fully absorb it. And then again, in college, I read it and I fucking loved it.
Ah, okay.
And then I've done the audiobook maybe like once every other year since.
Wow. Wait,
yeah.
So that's the one with Steven Weber, right?
It was the old audiobook
Oh,
a few times, and then the most recent time I listened was Steven Weber, who
yeah.
is so much better.
Yeah, he was awesome. That's also the same audiobook I've done in the past as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're an expert then.
Man, it's such a long book, and it's easy to zone in and out especially when you read it before that. When I see things from it, it'll jog my mind and I'll remember them, but it's hard to remember everything. You'd have to be like an it scholar.
Yes, I think so. For me, I go back, I read it when I was a kid. So I actually read it when I was probably, I want to say middle school, somewhere around there. And then I saw the miniseries, and then I did the audiobook, and then I read it again at some point. But just like you, I want to consider myself an expert maybe, but there's just so much.
There is so much.
There's so much stuff. But I will say, and I think I want to say I did 3 shows on It Part 1 back when it came out in 2017. So I was pretty familiar with what I wanted to talk about back then. And then and I don't know if you know this or not, I think we briefly talked about it a couple years ago, but I did enjoy It Part 1. I just thought there were a few things that I would have definitely changed in it. Do you have anything that you would have changed, or was that like just an awesome movie for you all around?
So I have a one up on you maybe going into this, in that I just finished listening to both of your It Part 1 episodes about 10 minutes before you hit me up for this. So I know your It background.
Okay, good.
And I'm gonna pull some ammo out of that if you contradict. I'm just kidding.
I would love it. No, I would love that.
I really liked It Part 1. I felt that it 100% nailed the atmosphere that I wanted, even if it did change a lot of the storylines.
Sure.
Man, it was a two-ish hour movie, and
yeah,
it's such a long book, and I knew that they were going to have to change things, and I was like, if they can make me feel just the aesthetic of the novel, then I'll be okay with it. And that's how I went into it, and I really liked it, especially Skarsgård as Pennywise.
Yes. Yeah, I think we could probably get that out of the way right away. He was amazing.
Yeah, even Part 2, he's good. Yeah.
Throughout the entire thing, it's kind of like you actually don't see it that often in the book. You really don't. So you actually want to see him more in the movies, if anything else. So yeah, that totally makes sense. Now, what about the idea of doing Part 1 as children and then doing Part 2 as adults with some flashbacks? Do you think that took away from anything, from the way the miniseries was, from the way the book was?
I think it made Part 1 way stronger, and it set them up for a way bigger challenge with Part 2.
Agreed. Yes.
But I understand why they did it. People like to see kids like facing trials like that, and it's a killer clown is, even though he's more than that, is scarier to kids than he is to adults.
Very true.
And the kid actors were perfect, and
yes,
and the totally 80s period piece also just made it better. It's like Part 2 is an uphill battle, and the way they ended Part 1, I think I heard you touch on this in your old podcast as well, was in a way that if the movie hadn't done so well, it could have been a conclusive ending. Like they beat it.
Yes, right. There were actually people in the theater that didn't know that there was going to be a Part 2. And there were actually people that asked me when I said, hey, I'm going to the first showing of it on Thursday. They go, wait a second, didn't they beat it?
Yeah.
How is there another one? So you're absolutely right. And I think that is a good place to start for sure. So let's just get your general feelings, because I know I commented on your post. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed It Part 2 a lot. Tell me the good parts first.
Fuck. I am the worst person to be a movie critic. Like I've taken film classes, like I was a film major before I switched to graphic design and stuff, but yeah, it is so easy for me to enjoy things that I want to enjoy.
Right.
But the visuals I loved. I think the kid to adult casting I really loved, and even though they didn't do nearly as good of a job showing, or like even for you feeling the friendship bond between the adults, right. I think the dynamic between, especially like Eddie and Richie, like as adults, they play off each other really well. I like that they weren't afraid to get weird and start into the kind of cosmic stuff with it.
True.
I'm sad that they backed out of that at the end.
Yeah, me too.
But I'd have to say my favorite shot of the whole movie is when it really started to hint at that and kind of giving me a little feeling of like what we could have maybe had was when it caught Richie in the deadlights.
Yes.
And you just see that huge, it's like, oh shit, this isn't just a shape-shifting big monster. This is a fucking cosmic entity right here.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, that made my heart pound out of my chest.
Right. And I totally agree. I just wish we would have seen that in part 1. So I was under the impression, or I thought at least, that they weren't even going to bring the ritual of Chewed in whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then to bring it in part 2 seemed a little half-assed to me. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm wrong on that feeling. But without doing it in part 1, it seemed relatively childish almost to do it in part 2, even though those characters are, when they come back to Derry, they're almost supposed to regress into childlike mannerisms, which is what I think you get from the book, and you get that from the miniseries. But I didn't feel that at all in this movie.
Other than Bill getting his stutter back, really. That's about it.
That was really the only thing. Other than that, I thought Bev, who was very, very strong in the first movie, except for getting kidnapped, which I thought was ridiculous. Right. In this movie, she seemed much weaker than almost anyone else. I mean, even
they turned her into a love interest.
Yeah.
Like that's about it. Yeah.
Right. And I think that does a very big disservice to her character. And as you know, right now we've got the Me Too movement. We've got a lot of things focusing on women being strong characters. And Bev was a very, very strong character in the book, in the miniseries. But now in these movies, she kind of is in the first one. But then to completely strip that away, it seemed, it didn't seem like the right time, especially to do that.
Agreed. Like when she hands, I understand it and it works for the plot. When she hands Eddie that spike and she's like, this kills monsters. I was like, no, bitch, you kill monsters. she's the badass.
Right. And I kind of get, you're not going to bring the slingshot into things. You know what I mean? Like,
it's dated and I get it. Yeah.
Totally get that. But then, so by the way, we probably, like I said, it's the first time we're doing this type of show. I should have said at the very beginning, spoilers out the ass for this, everyone. We are we're talking, I hope you've gone to see. That's the other thing too. I'm not saying I want people to not see the movie. I was just very disappointed in the movie itself. Mm-hmm. So I want people to go see it because I want them to make their own opinion about it. I'm not saying, hey, don't go because you're going to waste your money. You might end up liking it. Just like you ended up liking it. People might end up liking it.
I've seen it twice.
Really?
I saw it 2 nights back to back.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if I would have seen it that fast if I hadn't I got tickets to see it with Young Med and ended up only being one Young Med member and a few friends. And then some other friends that had wanted to see it with me as well. I was like, fuck, I'll see it with the next night because I wanted to absorb it again. And I got a better feel for what I liked and disliked by doing that.
Yeah. Did you see, let's focus on that for a second. Going from night 1 to night 2, was there anything in night 2 that you picked up that you really liked?
I was focusing a lot more on the people around me reacting to it night 2, kind of. Just because I saw it with 6 different people between the 2 nights.
Oh, okay.
And none of them had read the book. And I'd caught some of them up with a bit of the lore after I saw it the first time because I was like, they just throw this stuff at you and expect you to kind of know it. So what I was saying, I was happy they included some of the weird stuff like the ritual of Chewed, but they threw it in there in such a way that I feel like someone who hadn't read the book, not to sound pretentious, like it's a bad editing job, would have no idea. It's like, wait, what? This is okay, so it's an alien now? Wait, there's Native Americans now? And they throw it all at you in a span of minutes. Yeah. And as a book fan, I was like, this is really fucking cool to see on screen. But I'm like, people are going to think this is shitty.
Yes.
As a movie fan.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that also goes to, and I had someone with me who had not read the books, but saw part 1. And he was just watching me laughing most of the time because I was just shaking my head anytime that something I thought was wrong. So for the entire movie, I was shaking my head.
Oh,
the
man.
entire sometimes I even put my hand to my face because I couldn't believe what they were doing. And that's just me. I'm very melodramatic when it comes to
It's
that
all
kind of
good.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get it. But I did go in there really wanting to love it. I really did, because I bought the Blu-ray from the first one. There were a lot of things that I really enjoyed about that movie, even though it had its flaws. And then I was hoping that they were going to bring everything together. So it was just kind of tough for me when you go to the ritual itself. So we'll skip back and forth to different parts of it. So with the ritual itself, what I really didn't like at the end was, why would they make it that Mike would lie to everybody? Like, for his character, it didn't make any sense that he would lie and tell everyone this is going to work and scratch out the icon showing that it won't work.
Yeah.
And then just be so ashamed at the end. It didn't make any sense character arc wise.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of an easy way out, so they didn't have to show how fucking weird the actual ritual was.
Yeah.
And then they could throw in that cheesy ending, which I visually was fine. It was so fucking cheesy, though.
It really
was.
was.
Not like it.
No, and that's the thing. So I understand. So for anyone that doesn't know, and everyone and I'm sure you would do the same, I recommend people read the book or listen to the audiobook with Steven Weber, because it really is a lot of fun. And there's a lot of weird shit. Like, absolutely, absolutely weird. And this ritual is basically where you lock tongues in the macroverse. You lock tongues with who your enemy is, who happens to be it. And then you bite down on that tongue, and somehow you're supposed to tell jokes and make that thing or that person laugh. And it's a battle of wills, right? Did I get that about right?
Basically, yeah, that's it. And then once they've done that enough in the book to weaken Pennywise, like even the miniseries, they don't really show any of that, obviously.
Right.
But once they've done it enough to weaken Pennywise, Bill chases down this spider form of Pennywise, shoves his arm through it, and rips its heart out.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. In the first one, or the first part of the book, when they're children, Bill pretty much does it himself. He wins that battle of wills by himself. When they're adults, or in the time that they were adults, it was Bill and Richie, I believe, were the ones that really did it. And then Ben came back after he was done killing all the eggs. That was the other thing. Do you think there was a reason for moving away from the spider-like creature to make it more crab-like? Do you think they were just tired of the whole spider thing in general?
I mean, I think they wanted you to think of it as a spider, because they hinted at spiders a few other times in it, like in the
with the
dugout.
hairnets.
Yeah, they're like, are we really afraid of spiders? And then the Stanley head was like a kind of a nod to the thing, but also it's a spider.
True.
But I think that it was just staying on brand, like switching your main villain from who you've been plastering everywhere around the world as Pennywise,
right,
to a creature that doesn't have his features would be kind of dumb marketing wise. And I was actually cool with the final form of him. I was cool with it.
I would have been cool. Look, I was actually cool with it too. I just would have liked the spider webs. I would have liked the egg laying. I think that would have just a little extra in there, because you could have had Bev, even though that was a cool scene in the first movie, you could have had her suspended, but with weird spider webs, around her or something like that, or linking all the kids that were floating, which was, by the way, a really awesome visual in the first movie, for sure. But this movie, I wasn't blown away. Besides the things where it was a close-up on Pennywise, I wasn't really blown away by the CGI or the visuals, because it seemed like any time he turned into some creature, it was like a weird golem-like creature.
Yeah, Andy Muschietti, I don't know how you pronounce his Muschietti. Yeah, he was really freaked out when he was a kid by this Modigliani, or I think that's how you pronounce it, painting.
Okay,
and that's the reference he used for Mama, kind of warped faced woman.
Right,
brought it back as the flute lady.
Yeah. Right.
And then even in this one, after he confronts Richie, his eyes slide down to the warped angles. Yep. Same with the Mrs. Kurtz monster has the weird eyes. That he that's something that probably freaks the fuck out of him, and he reuses it.
There you go. Well, I mean, I like that explanation, but when I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, these kind of seem so similar. Yeah. It's like, wouldn't you want to mix it up? The other thing I have a problem with, and I'm sure you heard me talk about it on the last podcast, I don't know why you would do jump scares in it, because it isn't that kind of monster.
Yeah.
It doesn't
At least
need
to that level.
Yeah, it's a
maybe
higher,
1 or 2.
Right. Maybe something, but I mean, you throw it in there because now all horror movies have jump scares. So I get that they do that for that reason, but he's such an omnipotent. Yeah, I tripped on that. But so incredibly powerful that, I mean, he kind of freezes you in your tracks. You don't need something fast going at you because you're already in terror.
I bet you that's a some sort of studio call, man, because I know the director and the cinematographer from the first one and the second one are 2 different people, but they both have a similar style. You can tell they know that their best scenes with Pennywise are the ones where he's talking.
Yes.
And are up close. Like the first one, the one with Georgie, the one with Eddie.
Oh yeah.
The one under the bleachers. I know it's a new scene, but that's who you want to see.
I'm fine with that. Like when you add in extra stuff that wasn't in the book and it's like that, completely fine with it. When you do it well.
That's what you want.
Yes.
Exactly. Skarsgård's way too good of a Pennywise to just use him for those jump scares, and it's
right.
He does them well. I get it.
Oh, of course.
But the scene, my 2 favorite Pennywise scenes in this one, or I guess I'll add 3 just because Adrienne scene was amazing.
Oh, sure.
That was flawless. But the under bleacher scene and the scene where he comes down from the Paul Bunyan statue are the closest to book Pennywise we got in the whole movie, I think.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I guess we're going to jump around a lot, but I kind of want to focus on that a little bit too. So the Paul Bunyan thing is a very iconic scene from the book. So very glad that it was in the movie.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So they changed the timelines, obviously. You went from, the 50s to the 80s in the book in the miniseries. And here you went from the very, very late 80s going into the 90s to 2016. That's their timeline there. If you're going to do that, don't you think you'd want to keep up a little bit more with the times? Like they show, Bev has a cell phone, and then Ben is on Skype for his architecture firm or whatever. But other than that, they didn't even really make a whole lot of major references to the time. So when you go back to the original book and miniseries, when the different characters are scared by something, it's the big time monsters, right? It's Frankenstein, Dracula, the mummy, that kind of thing.
The Hammer film monsters. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Now I understand why this generation, why we wouldn't connect to that as much or find that as scary. So when you're going to make little Easter eggs in the movie, like at the very end of It Part 2, they're showing A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 when they're kids, when they had just beaten it for the first time and they're riding their bikes. Why not have, and it's probably a royalty thing or something, but why couldn't you try and get the characters that they're afraid of that are coming at them, like Freddy or Jason, or, you know what I mean? Like someone...
I heard in part 1 they were going to have Freddy be in the Neibolt Street house when he comes at them with the long claws. They were trying for that, and then studio nixed it.
Okay.
I'm kind of glad they did. I liked the scary Pennywise face there, but somewhere else in the film that would have been really fucking cool.
Yeah, I think the things that scared them or quote unquote scared them weren't as scary as they could have been or didn't have that kind of nostalgic feel, because otherwise I don't know what the point is besides saying, oh no, in 2016 we don't have to change the type of cars that are around or anything because it's not a timepiece. What did they do by changing that time period?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's also one of those things where you've got Bill Hader as one of your characters. It kind of goes back to the Ritual of Chud part, where he does character voices, he does a lot of jokes. But in this movie, did you ever find him funny?
Dude, no, I was laughing my ass off at him the whole time. No, I fucking loved it. He was the MVP of the movie for me.
Really?
Dude,
wow, I think I just lost my voice on that.
Ask
Really?
anyone. You are salty about this, but
I think I am.
Ask anyone. He's the MVP of that fucking movie.
I thought the MVP was Eddie.
I loved Eddie too. He's my number 2.
You see, that's what I thought, though. I thought they were giving, actually, if you looked around the theater, at least the one that I was in, the laughter was coming only at what Eddie was doing to play off of Richie. Richie never got a laugh whatsoever.
Really? Oh, people loved it at the showings I was at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I wonder, I mean, I will obviously see it again when it comes out on digital or something like that, but I must have I must have missed it because I was laughing more at what Eddie was doing playing off of him. So that's just that's very strange to me. Wow.
I mean, they did work really well together. So like it is kind of a package thing.
Right. All right. Well, let's even jump again. So, and we're going to get around to a lot of things here. But so what did you think about the gay angle that they played up here? Because in the book, you kind of get the feeling that Eddie might be gay. Yeah. But in this one, definitely Richie is gay in this one. But then was there supposed to be like a back and forth between the two of them?
I don't really think it mattered as much that if it was reciprocated, just because it was kind of more to add into his grieving process and like to add his secret. But I actually I thought it kind of added to it. They didn't have enough time to really build on the whole adult friendship angle as much, and that just adds kind of another layer to it. And you also kind of think of each kid has their own kind of flaw. Bev's an abused girl,
right?
Physically and like sexually abused by her father, and then later her husband.
Yep.
Eddie's a hypochondriac, that's what you call it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then his mom has Munchausen's by proxy, like
pretty much. Yep.
Yeah, and Bill has a speech impediment. Ben's the fat kid.
Yep.
Stanley's Jewish. Like I'm talking about the old timeline.
Yeah, the old timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, right. He's Jewish, and fucking Mike's a black kid in a small town. Like they all have something that they're getting fucked with. And Richie's the class clown. That's not that now it goes back and it shows him being picked on for possibly being gay.
Right.
So it kind of adds to his character. I think there's an interview coming out this next week where Stephen King's going to touch on how he feels about it. And I bet you he's cool with it. He'll probably be like, no, I didn't write it that way, but that's cool.
Right. Well, Stephen King's cool with literally everything.
He is such a bad metric to judge the movies by.
I cannot trust anything. Like, I love the man to death. I have tattoos dedicated to his work, which is, to me is a big deal. Like, I love the Dark Tower series. I love so many Stephen King books, but that man cannot be trusted when it comes to any opinions on anything, except for maybe politics. But even then, he gets so fucking annoying with it. That's my issue.
Yeah, his movie opinions. I always tell people he's kind of like me. He likes it. He likes everything.
He does like everything. But we might have to do an episode of the new Pet Sematary if you like that movie, because I lost my fucking mind.
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Well, see it so maybe we can talk about it. Because it was just so. Anyways, but the thing I actually think it works. If you want to say that Richie, I mean, completely, there are little puzzle pieces you can put in there for sure to point to that. But my issue is not that he's gay. My issue is that they drop that storyline, because really you're leading up. If Pennywise is making fun of him for not being able to come out, for not being able to tell his secret even to his friends, and then he never tells his secret to his friends.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of a drop storyline there? Like, I wasn't expecting. Look, I was worried. I was actually worried that he was going to tell them when they were all hugging in the ravine. I think that would have been a terrible time to do that.
I think a good time for him to do it is when they'd be fighting Pennywise. He looks at Mike and he's like, I know you're a madman or whatever, like kind of a weird line, but he's kind of like going through like what people are afraid others would think of him.
Yep.
Because adult Richie would come right out and be like, yeah, I'm a probably just.
Well, yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean,
he'd say it.
Right. In a Stephen King book, yes, he would have said that word, but not in this movie for sure. But yeah, that's what I was looking for. Because to me, that seems like a drop storyline that they only threw in to be controversial. You see what I mean?
Or to appease all the fans that shipped them or whatever.
Yes, right. Oh my! I can't believe you said that on this show.
The ready shippers.
All we have to do is talk about literal stands on this show, and then our whole thing is complete. And here, let's talk about that too, because I just have point after point here. That note at the end, that letter. What did you think about that?
I wouldn't have minded a letter, and in the context of how it ended with like how it was already cheesy, whatever, I'll take it. But a big part of why Stan's death was so impactful in the book, I don't remember the miniseries very well, man. Honestly, I know you grew up with it, watching it over and over, but a big part of why Stan's death was so impactful in the book is it happens after his is the first phone call, and he takes his own life before you find out what it really is.
Right.
So you're like, what is so bad that this guy remembers from being a kid
Exactly.
that he just fucking offed himself out of nowhere?
Right.
And then throughout the rest of the book, it goes back and forth between the adult and the kid timeline. And it's like it's not so much that he's a coward out of all of them, but it's like it shows how severely fucked up their situation back in Derry was, that this grown man killed himself just after getting a phone call. And it's not because of a sacrifice he's making to help them.
Right.
It's because this guy probably pissed himself on the phone, immediately killed himself, because he knew that if he went back, he was probably going to face this horrific thing, like this elder being.
Yes, exactly.
It's not a sacrifice. It's him terrified and would rather face the void that way than another way.
Right.
That makes it scarier.
Exactly. And I love the way you put that, because I think that's absolutely perfect. And for me, and I don't know if it's the same for you or not, one of the reasons why I connected with it so much as a kid was because I was an Air Force brat. So I was moving around everyone and really didn't grow up with friends, because you move every, year or two. It's very difficult. It's not like the movies where the new kid comes in like Ben and you get 6 different friends. Yeah, it doesn't really work like that. So to me, it wasn't that they were my friends. It's that when I read it, I was like, wow, I would change this entire universe to have a killer clown here if I could have friends like those.
Yeah.
So when Stan takes his own life as an adult, I'm looking at him like, you piece of fucking shit. Like, you coward. You let your friends down. You let the Losers Club down. And that's why it was so impactful to me. Not because I didn't like Stan when he was a kid, but because he was part of the group and he let them down by not coming back. So to me, even though that ending was so incredibly cheesy in the movie, it still was even worse to think that they were to actually give him credit, to be like, oh, well, I just took myself off the board. That to me was just like, how dare you? And then also to change the end line as well. Did you notice that when it was stand, all that, that awesome end line of that paragraph, they added extra words to it and made it a whole thing about the Losers Club. And that was not the point of that.
Yeah, I don't think I caught that.
Oh, yeah. If you watch it again, notice, and I wish I could remember it, no website's going to have it.
I know it ends with like, we're losers and always will be, or something like that.
Yes, which is extremely cheesy. But before that, they do the whole, I forget, man, now I'm going to kill myself for this. It's like, Stan, be brave. You know what I mean? It's that whole, like, 3 different things you're supposed to do. They added a 4th one and then added in the Losers Club thing.
Yeah.
And I just was like, come on, guys. And if we go and continue that, what did you think about the whole being able to remember and then Derry not breaking apart and basically that whole entire area not, sinking to the ground and being nothing?
So I know why they didn't do the destruction of the town, and it was budget. Like 100%, Stephen King came to them and was like, you need to do this. And they're like, our budget is sucked up in this, this, and this.
Right.
And he's like, that makes sense, or whatever. I mean, and that's fine and understandable, but that doesn't mean they had to do a Disney ending. Like,
right.
My favorite ending to a Stephen King movie is, I think you even said you liked it better in the book as well, is the ending to the Mist movie, where they changed it and made it fucking sadder.
You almost can't get sadder than that ending. That is one of the most brutal endings to a movie you can ever have.
So sticking closer to the original It ending, that would have been such a bold move, like a sucker punch to the audience, and people would have been like, what the fuck? They go on to like forget each other again.
Yes. And that to me was so heartbreaking, but that's what I like. I don't have to have all my endings as everyone gets together and it's the greatest thing ever. Like, obviously Ben and Bev get together, but they forget the rest. Everyone else, and that's what's so heartbreaking is they sacrifice multiple times to beat this creature and basically to save, maybe not save the world, but to save hundreds and thousands and maybe millions of lives over, millions of years or whatever. They sacrifice basically their friendships to do that. But now it's just like, oh, we'll just we'll all go off and we'll all continue to be friends. And then also, here's another, and this is nitpicking a little bit, but when Mike calls Bill and he tells him about the letter, and he's like, hey, ha ha ha, I'm sure you can write endings now. And Bill's like, ha ha ha, yeah, but I'm only on the first chapter, but I know where this one's going. Wouldn't you have him be on the final part and say, yeah, I just wrote the best ending ever?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It's little things like that where...
I liked his call with Mike.
Yeah.
In the context of how they did end it, I just wish they hadn't ended it that way.
Right. I mean, look, I love the idea.
I feel like all the actors and the cinematographer and everyone did a amazing job with what they were given. I don't think they were given a lot of the best stuff to work with.
I agree because really, you're right. Besides Bill's stutter, I didn't feel a connection between them at all. And really what's supposed to happen is as soon as they get that call, they all have that dread. Stan can't handle it. Everyone else doesn't quite understand, but they know it's terrible. But they go back, and really that Chinese food restaurant thing, that whole scene is much longer in the book, obviously. It's even longer in the miniseries itself.
Right. Yeah.
But the miniseries was able to capture that way better than this movie was.
The reconnection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a little sad because that's the whole point of the characters is to really reconnect with them.
Yeah. It's even though the miniseries is shorter, it's each adaptation chose to do certain things with the time it was given.
Right.
And neither was given enough time to do everything right.
Very true.
Like I've said from the start, like it deserves a Stranger Things type length show. I mean, that's how Stranger Things was made. Is the Duffer Brothers optioned to direct it, and then they got turned down.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, we love this kid angle. Let's have a group of friends, fighting the supernatural."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It has so much meat to that story, and it deserves that length. And it really sucks because I actually like everyone they got together to do this movie, and it would have been so perfect.
Yes.
That length, like Skarsgård and all of them, the whole cast. But
if they could have gotten all those people together to sign for that amount of time and done an HBO series or even FX. I mean, if they can pull off American Horror Story, they can probably do that as well. So and I know it always goes to that. You don't have enough time, but to me, and maybe you got to go back and watch the miniseries again, but to me, the miniseries captured, even though very campy towards the end, they did not have the budget for a giant spider
or the tech.
They weren't able to do that, but that captured a lot more of the character's essence and the connection compared to even put these two movies together. The miniseries really captures that much better, in my opinion.
From what I remember of the miniseries, it's probably just because I've seen the new ones or the first new one so many times, probably at least 10 times. I definitely feel the kid connection way better on the first one. I mean, on the newer one, and since it's harder for me to kind of relate or feel the period acting. Even it wasn't period at the time of the adults in the miniseries,
right? Versus
in the new one, I connect more with that too. I'll have to rewatch it. Whenever I think about it, I just think of like a lot of mustaches, man.
Yeah, there were a lot of mustaches. I mean, obviously, I am older than you, not that much older, but when I saw that miniseries, I was very young when I saw it. So for me, though, it was Seth Green, and it was the kid from the second Never-Ending Story.
Jonathan Brandis, yeah.
Yes, and Jonathan Brandis,
he killed himself when he was 27, but
yes.
He was a amazing Bill. I remember that much.
Yes.
I liked him at least as much, if not more, than Jaden in the new one. But he's the only kid from the original that I really, really liked a ton.
I thought Ben was really good as a kid in the miniseries. And then also I thought Seth Green was a perfect Richie.
He was for that time.
For that time. It probably wouldn't have worked now because you need to up that type of humor. But that was another thing too. So in the first part, they do the beep beep Richie in the toy box, I think, is where they had it scroll. And then
with no context,
Yeah, no context whatsoever. And again, they do Bev as an adult saying beep beep Richie. I don't know why they couldn't have continued with it. Like, I know it's an old school type thing, but kids do that kind of thing even to this day, I think. So why not just continue that? Because what, do you think the crowd, like at your theater, did the crowd applause? Because they were like, wow, they threw in a reference that is in the entire book that they just never use.
No one applauded in my crowd or anything, but I was like, yeah, that's for us.
You marked out a little bit? Yeah.
That's for us book fans. Before I forget,
Yeah.
The kid Ben actor, I don't know if you knew this or noticed it. I only know it because I was reading about Easter eggs before I saw it the second time.
Oh, okay.
He is in the new one, the one that in part 2.
Yeah.
When it first shows Hanscom's architect's firm, and it doesn't show Ben, it shows the head of it shows what you think is the head of the firm, kind of a bigger guy. That's that kid grown up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's kind of a misdirect. Like you're supposed to think that's Ben at first, and it's actually the original kid Ben actor.
That's actually kind of funny. I like that. That's cool. I mean, I'm sure they would have tried to get John Ritter if they could have. Like, that kind of stuff would have been nice for sure. But that was another thing I had an issue with editing and pacing, was that whole first part where Mike was calling everybody. That seemed very, very disjointed. Did you feel the same?
I thought the little transitions between the pieces were cool, but the whole movie, I feel, wasn't edited super well.
No.
Like, or it never dragged or anything for me, but I feel this is something we'll probably disagree on. I felt almost all the content in the movie was pretty solid, in that it could be fixed by a really good re-edit, which is what the director says he wants to do. He's like, yeah, I've always wanted to do part 1 and part 2 kind of intertwined like the original way, which is what he says he's going to do. So
that might turn out well. That could be cool. Yeah. I mean, I've only seen, I think in my lifetime, I can say, I've only seen one director's cut that was actually better than the original. And this is going way back. Do you remember Final Fantasy Advent Children?
I do remember that, yeah.
The first theatrical release, the first DVD that came out, was actually really bad. Besides the fight scenes and stuff.
That's all I've seen.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The storyline didn't make any sense. There were just like these random people talking, and you had no idea what they were doing. If you see the director's cut that they also put out on Blu-ray, that one actually fills in all the parts and makes it a cohesive storyline where it doesn't sound like they're just bad voice actors. Like, it actually has a point. So if you get a chance, take a look at that. I will give, if he ends up doing a longer edit, I'll definitely give it a shot for sure. Because like I said, I know everyone thinks I go into movies like not wanting to like them so I can do shows like this. I would rather right now be doing a show with you where we were like, oh man, do you remember that scene? That was awesome. Like, I would honestly rather do that. But when they change things in a book that I don't understand why they change them, that's where I get a little bit like...
Here, let's see. I'm just curious if you can do this.
Go ahead.
3 scenes in this that you really liked, your 3 favorite scenes.
I can do 2. I
bet you can do 3.
Okay, I'll think about it, but I'll do the first 2 first. So I always thought that they really captured Derry well. Like, even though I would like it to be darker, like, I didn't want the sunny skies all the time. I wanted there to be a little gloom to it.
I always thought of that too, yeah.
Yeah, but I liked the city, or town. I liked the way the layout was. It made me feel like I actually got shivers. I got some goosebumps during the second one at the very beginning when they showed it. I was like, maybe this won't be bad, because that really got, you know what I mean? That really got me. The other thing was the callback, because I loved it from the first one. The callback of having the 3 doors. Very, not at all scary, scary and very scary. That was such a Stephen King thing that he never did, that just really, really worked. Because
that was straight up King.
Yeah, because especially in the first one, the kids, of course, are going to go to the not very scary.
Right.
And then with this one, you knew none of the doors were going to be good. But to learn their lesson from the first time and then try and redo it, like that, I like that.
And then instead of Betty Ripsom's top half, you get the bottom half.
Yes. See, that little things like that, totally fine with. And then as a third thing, man, that's really... Oh, yes. The way the Deadlights were portrayed through Pennywise.
So tight.
Yes. Yes, and I wanted more of that. I wanted more of that because like in the miniseries and in the book, it's like the lights are inside the body. This was a cooler like aspect of the mouth is like sucking out your soul almost.
Yeah.
And then the dead lights are behind just pulsing their energy.
Oof.
And like that was really, really well shot. You know what I mean?
That was my favorite shot of the whole movie.
Yeah.
He's about to throw that rock and all of a sudden you feel like fucking 5 sub drops like boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
And it's just like, and he's just, Pennywise just kind of limp there with like his face blown open and those lights coming out. Oh my God.
Yes. That was cool. Awesome. Now let's talk about a little bit, just some of the inconsistencies with a lot of this. So Henry Bowers in the first movie, did you not think he was dead?
I think I read about a deleted scene where he washed out before I even saw the movie.
Right. Well, knowing the book and everything, like if you had just seen that movie by
if I had seen it without knowing that, I would have thought he died. Yeah.
Right. Because
he fell down a fucking well.
Yeah, he fell down a well, hit his head very hard on said well, and then you never see him again. So that was another thing. The other thing too was, what about Bev's father? Normally, and I'm not from experience, wink, wink, if you hit somebody over the face and head with the back of a toilet seat cover, like the back, that porcelain thing, and you leave the person laying so that blood is coming out of the back of their head, pooling like that, normally they die.
Yeah, you think so.
Not in this movie.
No.
So why not just make a call? You know what I mean? Like, it just seemed very weird to do that. And then also, why only say that Henry Bowers was only responsible for his father's death? He took credit or was blamed for all those missing children, but they never give any of that in this movie.
They don't really touch on it, but I guess they don't really have to. Same with Bev's father, like, he's functionally dead to the franchise anyways after that first one. Like, they didn't bring him back.
So no. I just mean in general to give a little context to the character. Like, why would you just go to an insane asylum? Like, give a little bit of context to it. Like, he comes out babbling, saying, I killed all the kids, whatever. Then you go to the asylum. Then also you talk about wanting to have more scenes with, Bill as Pennywise. Why not do something where Pennywise actually talks to him while he's in, like it did in the book?
Yeah.
Either
that would have been cool.
Yeah. Like, they didn't do, I understand why they didn't get into Patrick's past, because that was insane.
That's my favorite part in the book.
Is that really? Holy shit, man. You were fucked up.
No, I guess not favorite part, but it's one of the darkest, coolest parts. And how he dies and Ben sees it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, he is fucked up. And for anyone that doesn't know, you should just go read the book, go listen to the audiobook. I mean, he murders his not son. I almost said son. He murdered his brother as a baby. Like, I mean, the things he did. So they didn't go into
animal killing.
Oh, so many animals. And then, he had the gay stuff with Henry that they obviously weren't going to go into.
Right.
But it was just like all the other stuff was crazy messed up and everything. So they're not going to go into that. So I understand. But then why not have some interaction with Vic and Belch, and like, why not really have a conversation? Like, that's the cool part. We would have all enjoyed that. I think even anyone that didn't understand what was happening would still enjoy that interaction.
I don't know what they would have to cut to make room for that, though. It's already 3 hours long.
Was it 3 hours?
It was 3 hours long. See, that's one thing. I didn't feel it dragged.
No.
Even though I didn't like all of it, it felt like pretty fast, and it kept you the whole time.
Now, let me switch around, or let me flip around that question back to you then. Yeah. Besides what we've talked about, give me 3 things you didn't like in the movie.
I did not like the verbally bullying Pennywise to death.
I was waiting till the end, but we can go into that right now.
Verbally bullying a cosmic being to death. Yeah, it's whatever. Okay.
It's just so, it's not hypocritical. It's just so, I think this would be ironic, where basically the reason why the Losers Club becomes what it is because of being bullied. It's not necessarily because of Pennywise. Pennywise is a part of all the things that happened to them as their kids. Yeah. There were lots and lots of bullying, not only by Henry, but by other people. So to say basically that bullying ended up helping them win in the end is a very, very weird way to close out that chapter.
Yep.
You know what right? Because I'm not saying that kids are going to be like, oh, well, bullying's really great. Like, I'm going to have a lot of fun doing that because obviously you're supposed to, because that's what the kids did. But it just feels really weird to have that be the way that they win. Like, why not continue? I know they kind of used the bullet in part one where they were doing the whole I'm not afraid thing. But really, that is the point. Like, that is how they win, is by not being afraid. So why not just work that in some other way instead of it literally being that they're calling him a fucking clown?
Yeah.
That was really fucking weird.
Well acted, dumb idea.
Very, very, very dumb. All right, what's your next one?
This is a hard one to say because I thoroughly enjoyed this throughout the movie. I enjoyed this movie being campy and including that much comedy juxtaposed with the horror because I laughed like every single time they wanted me to laugh. I thought it was funny and I'll probably laugh again. Like they did a great job with it, but I would have also really enjoyed like a horror cut of the movie.
Right.
You know, like even not toning down Richie or Eddie's scenes, but just overall, I never feared for the characters that much.
Right. Even knowing what was going to happen, because they did change things around.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Mike doesn't even make it to the end. He's in the hospital.
Yeah.
Eddie has a broken arm again. He doesn't have a knife through the face. I thought that was really weird. I thought they were going to kill him. And I was like, why would you do this? None of that makes any sense to what you're doing.
I didn't mind that as much.
It just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, they've been like just in part one where they switched the town historian from Mike to Ben.
Yeah. By the way, where did another drop storyline?
Yeah.
I mean, Mike ends up being the historian, so why didn't you just have him be that and then Ben had the new kid thing?
Yeah, like the needless switches between characters, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
So those would be my first two, and then I guess I would say bad CGI, but there's only one scene where it really bothered me, so I'm gonna try to think of one other thing.
Okay.
You
can get it. I know. Come on, there's like 50.
I could be nitpicky, but if I'm only choosing 3, you know.
No, that's true.
Probably the overusage of jump scares and the underutilization of
suspense.
Yeah, like my favorite shots, like in the new one, like I said, were the ones where Pennywise, or I guess Bill Skarsgård, had a chance to act, you know?
Right.
And even though I didn't think I would like it, just seeing it from the trailer, but him without the full makeup on talking, it was fucking cool. It was really creepy.
Yeah. I was worried they were going to make him human.
Make a origin story, yeah. I'm glad they didn't. I'm very glad they didn't, yeah.
Very, very glad. But then, so I wanted to go back to one of the things you said. Now I'm blanking a little bit on it. Damn it. And that was not a pun. Oh, man. Crap. I forgot. All right. We'll go on to something else and maybe I'll jog my memory. But I got to say, I think one of the funniest things I laughed at, that when I thought this movie was supposed to be less campy than the miniseries, what was with Bev and her husband when they came down the stairs? Remember the big ass picture behind them? That was them together. That made me laugh because I was like, that is so out of place. What is that doing there?
Their fashion line mansion.
Yeah.
That didn't bother me or make me laugh at all, but I could understand why it would.
It was just so weird. But then that actually brings up another thing too. So you have a drop storyline with that because you never have him come to kill Bev, in Derry, which
isn't it a few of them? It's her husband, Joe Rogan, and then Audra Denborough. Bill and her spouses come to Derry and take place in all the showdown.
Yeah, because what ends up happening is Audra comes because, I mean, they just blew her character away in this movie. Yeah. Like that whole Bill can't write, endings or whatever was obviously a joke about Stephen King. That they, he just continued that, which is whatever. But then Audra does not follow him. And then you don't get, and that was another thing. Silver played such a huge role in the novel and actually a lot in the miniseries, and then did nothing in this movie or the first one.
Just like a little Easter egg for the book fans, basically.
Right.
That's about it.
But if you're doing a feel-good movie for the end, why not have Audra come, get kidnapped? You don't even have to have Bev's husband chase her, like whatever.
Yeah.
But you have Audra come looking for Bill, and then Audra gets kidnapped like Bev did. And then they save her the same way. She's catatonic. And then he does the whole silver thing. Like that was the one really good ending point.
Yeah.
That was not a depressing part, really, in the novel.
I'm guessing that had to be a time thing because I was having a lot of trouble getting attached to the adult characters without like making the connection to the kid characters.
Right.
Within like this already 3-hour movie, and then you're throwing in a new not loser, but a new like main character that you're supposed to care about them.
Right.
Because in the book you get like chapters and chapters about a backstory character that you never see in the main plot. And in the movie, like you don't have that luxury, I guess.
No, it's very true. It's very true. Another thing, I'm just listening to things I don't like now. Another thing that I didn't like, and it actually happens, it's whenever this happens in movies, it really, really annoys me. Okay. It happened actually in Harry Potter, believe it or not. Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, when Harry's name gets pulled. And Harry's in the room with all the people and everyone's like, oh, I can't believe it, blah, blah. And then Dumbledore, for some reason in the movie, runs in and basically tackles Harry. And it's like, basically, what the fuck? How did you get all that? Yeah. How did you get your blah, blah.
Yeah.
He was never that character in any of the books. He was always the calm guy that always seemed to know what was going on and why things had happened. So the reason why I bring that up is because that's such a character change. In this movie, there were two big character changes, which we mentioned one, which was Mike just being like, for some reason, a madman.
He's manic.
That was so weird to have that. And then for Bill to yell at Eddie and basically blame Eddie and be like, you're basically a coward. Like, did you want something to happen to Richie? What are you doing? Like, that never happened.
Right.
Ever. That's
Eddie's reaction to him in that scene was very
sad.
in character and on point, I feel. Though.
Yeah. No, it was. And it was also made me feel very sad.
Me too.
I was like, oh, why did you do that to Eddie? Look how sad he is. Like, he doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like Eddie knew it was out of character for Bill too. He's like, oh.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, I did not want Eddie to have to go through that because we also know that Eddie's not a coward. He's a hypochondriac.
Right.
But he's not a coward.
Not at all.
So the only coward was Stan. We all know that. So I don't know. I just hate character changes like that. That's the tough part for me. So the reason why I couldn't connect to this, and I hate it so much that I really, really hate this movie, is because we start listing out all that stuff, and that's what's getting into my head the entire time that I'm watching it because I can't take that out of my mind.
Really?
Yeah, I can't lose myself in a movie like that. It's the same as I felt when I watched the Dark Tower movie because that was atrocious. Like,
that's
absolutely.
Something they should never have made into a movie ever.
Yeah, that should have been. It goes back to what you said. That should have been a long form HBO series.
I think they're doing that still.
I thought they lost funding because of how poor. Like, that movie bombed worse than, like, you can't even see. I don't think you can buy a Blu-ray for that. You can't. I don't think you can buy a DVD for that. Maybe DVD, but no Blu-ray. And then the only streaming service that has ever had it, I think, is either Cinemax or Showtime.
Damn.
That's it. Yeah, no, it's horrible. They never played it on TV. It didn't get licensed to, be played on TNT or anything like that. It is a straight up just bad movie.
I never saw it because of how bad the reviews were from Stephen King fans.
Oh, yeah. Well, even movie fans, too. Like, I think it has a 19%, or it was funny if it was a 19. I think it has like a 15.
I love the Dark Tower series.
I do too. I have tattoos for it. I love it. Yeah. Absolutely love it.
I just knew there was no way they could nail it.
Right.
The first trailer was kind of promising. Second one, I was like, shit.
Well, here's a question, a little off topic. But if you could pick the perfect Roland, who would it be?
Oh, fuck, man. Probably some unknown dude.
Oh, okay.
I'd go with an unknown.
I mean,
I was actually stoked for Idris Elba. I thought he could pull off a cool like alternate reality role in, because you know in the books you see Clint Eastwood or something close.
Yes,
a ragged
exactly.
guy like that.
Right.
But like,
right.
Yeah, and when I saw him in the trailer, I was like, this could be Roland. That's cool.
Yeah.
But kind of lost opportunity there.
Yeah. No, for sure. For me, I always saw, when I was reading the books, I always saw Timothy Olyphant.
Really? Okay.
If you watch the show Justified, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because he's basically Roland in Justified.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, it's a weird thing to say, but if you watched it, you would totally understand what I'm talking about.
The only thing I really remember him from is from that awful Hitman adaptation.
Oh, yeah. Now that's...
Look, I think they made a second shitty Hitman adaptation too, which sucks. I used to love that game series.
Yeah, they made a bunch of really bad Hitman movies.
Oh, why? It would be so easy. All the video game adaptations, like if you just kind of stuck to it and tried not to do your own Hollywood shit,
yep,
you would learn that you could make these good.
Well, look at the Resident Evils. I mean, they went on to make a lot of money, but they're terrible movies.
Yeah. I enjoy those for being terrible.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I know that when I talk to you, you're always going to like something.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes it works when we're doing our back and forth, because I don't want to shut you out. Like that's the thing, is I would never want you to stop with your opinion. Mm-hmm. I like going back and forth with people that don't have the same opinion as me. And we actually do have a lot of the same opinions when it comes to other things. It's just with it, for some reason, we just don't.
Dude, I agree with almost all of your criticism on it. I'm just different in that I'm still able to enjoy it.
I think that's an issue that I've had for a long time, where I just can't shut off my mind to see a movie where I know the backing of it, because like I said, I just don't understand why. Like, I wish I could talk to the director. It's the same with the Dark Tower director, because he was such a liar at the beginning, like talking about how it was going to be close to the books and how he was super proud of it, like all this kind of stuff. I wish I could talk to them off the record and just have them tell me what went on behind the scenes that limited their ability to do what they wanted to do.
I was listening to a podcast review of It Part 2 yesterday, and one of the guys, and there's two people that do like a Losers Club Stephen King podcast. Oh, okay. And then the third guy is like an editorial writer for Vanity Fair. Oh, and he's interviewed the cast. He's interviewed Andy Muschietti. He's interviewed Stephen King, but it's like in a very informal podcast setting. So he's like, where he's like legally allowed to, he'll be like dishing a little bit of what he's learned from them. And he's like, a lot of the things, my complaints with this movie come down to almost like corporate kind of things. Like they would do a test screening and they wouldn't feel it's good enough, or whatever his name is, Gary Dauberman is the one who wrote the script for this new one. Whereas the first one, it was a mix of a Dauberman script and the Cary Fukunaga True Detective guy.
Yeah. Right.
And the new one is just Gary Dauberman, and he has not been known for writing really good scripts. Like, he'll do some good horror stuff, but like no good human elements or humor. So they sent it off to some dude that does mainly comedy to add in that stuff. So, which is why the comedy was generally on point in it. And then it just tonally, it just felt off, you know? And they were bending back and forth for, I think, studio execs, which sucks because the director, Andy, and his sister, Barbara, who's one of the main producers, if you follow their Instagrams and stuff, I go through and peek every now and then. Even when the movie was just announced, I looked. You can tell they care a shit ton about the source material.
Right.
But they aren't the final say, like, it by any means, and it sucks.
I try not to blame any. It's the same as, I understand why the actors probably weren't like, so we're supposed to yell at him?
Yeah.
And he's going to turn small? Like, I totally get that they probably can't bring that up to people either, so they're just there to read their lines and go on and do whatever.
Yeah.
So I get that. It's just, it's tough. So there was one thing that I read as well that I want to hit on. They had the Adrienne Scene, which you said you loved, right? Because that is very, very close, if not perfect, to the book.
That was the most accurate book to screen thing from either of the movies.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't think they were going to do it.
It bothered me. It was hard to watch.
It was brutal. And that's, so there have been some, shitty websites and stuff that picked it up, like Stephen King's anti-gay and why did they put this in here? My issue is not with the scene itself because, like you said, it's disturbing because it's supposed to be. That's the way it was in the book. My issue was they did not show enough of Derry's dark side. Like, they very much focused on both movies on the bullies, just Henry Bowers.
Yeah.
And barely his friends. So, Henry and a little bit of Patrick. That was it. And then didn't go into the darkness, besides maybe Eddie's mom and stuff, didn't really go into the darkness of Derry. Like, they used to talk about how, in the book, how, things would happen like, gay people getting beat up and people would just drive on by. Or
no one give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And they only hit on it a very slight amount on the first one, where I think it was when Ben was getting the H carved into him from Henry.
The car with the balloon, yeah.
Yeah, and the car went by. They didn't help.
I love that.
Yeah. But that's not enough to show that there's a darkness in Derry. So that scene doesn't really work in part 2 because there's no follow-up to it.
See, for me, it's more like it worked really, really well, and I was wanting to feel that, not wanting to because it felt awful, but like they should have brought it back more, and it should have been in part 1, like stuff that made me feel that sick to my stomach throughout.
Right. That it was more the kids not only versus Pennywise and the bullies, but also this darkness in this town itself.
I feel even if they just had one per part, so that for part 2, the Adrienne Mellon one, and then the first one, maybe do the what is it? The Eddie Corcoran and Dorsey Corcoran, the kids.
Oh, yeah.
The dad kills his kid with a hammer.
Yes. Right.
The brother sees it or knows about it, and he goes to escape down to the river, like running away from his dad or something, and then he gets killed by Pennywise as a swamp monster, gets his head ripped off.
Right.
So those 2 scenes are so dark that they could have changed the tone of both movies, and it made it really cool.
Right. And then another tonal shift that I didn't appreciate, and I understand why they did it, but I prefer it the other way, was to basically have it that Pennywise wanted them back.
Yeah.
Pennywise, whether it was almost a friendship or something, like he wanted something from them that wasn't just killing them. Because really, he had many, many chances to kill them. Yeah. And he didn't or couldn't, whichever one you want to choose there. But what I really enjoyed about the book and the miniseries was that he was actually afraid of them.
Yeah, that I didn't. It never really explicitly says in the book whether it's Pennywise or Maturin or the other, or like anything that causes it directly. But I always assumed it was it, like doing this. Whenever I say Pennywise, I mean it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But that it was it that made all of the losers that left super successful in their chosen fields to keep them happy and to keep them away.
Right.
So they wouldn't come back and wouldn't fight it. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't think they explicitly said that in either of them whatsoever, which was the better part of it. Because, then bringing, and which they didn't do, obviously, but him setting Henry Bowers free from the asylum, him bringing Tom there and capturing Audra, all that stuff is because he needed extra reinforcements, basically.
He doesn't want to face them.
Yeah, he doesn't. He thinks that these, almost quote unquote real people will scare them more than him because he's already fought them where they weren't afraid of him. So, but that's easy to fix in the movies, but they just didn't do it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I liked the line, like, I missed you. I was like, oh, that's pretty fucking creepy. I didn't mind it. I thought it was cool, but I guess it doesn't make sense in the broader context of it, though, like why he would want them back.
Right.
Other than like revenge, which is a motive. But
that's fine. Yeah, I totally understand that. But it goes back to that I thought it was a terrible scene in the first one, that ending part where he's got Bill and he's like, well, you all can leave, and I'll take him, and I'll make your lives completely, you'll have the greatest lives ever or whatever. And then Richie does that horrible list of things where where he's going with it.
Yeah.
That was cringy.
Oh, it was, but I loved it. Just because a kid was doing it, it was funny.
True. No, well, I loved when he swung the bat. Like, I love them beating the shit out of him. Like, that's great. But just the lead up to it, I was like,
I feel you.
That can be a little better. Let me see. Did I hit everything? Was there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to talk about?
I really want to see the extended, like a director's cut. I want that. And in the interview circuit Andy's been doing for It Part 2, when they ask him about what's next, not even when they ask him, but he seems to bring this up. Not like he's embarrassed, because this movie is going to do well. Even if the ratings aren't like as good as one, it's going to do very well. It's already, I think, the second highest grossing behind It Chapter 1 as a horror movie.
Probably.
Or on track to be.
Yeah.
So, like, it'll be fine.
Right.
But he keeps on bringing up that he wants to do his cut, and he always meant for it to be this way, like the cut between the two of them.
Right.
And he, in the interview, says that he has 2 more scenes he wants to shoot for it as well.
Oh. I wonder if he'll be able to do that.
I'm fucking hoping that if he does do it and does get to do those scenes, one of them is the black spot, because that's one of my favorites from the book.
Gotcha. That would be nice. I'm just trying to think. Look, I would love for them to do the ritual correctly.
Yeah. You know that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
Well, they'll never bring in Maturin, or however you want to say it. Like, they'll never bring him in. But that links so many Stephen King books together. I mean, that's whole Dark Tower.
That'd be so cool. Get a Stephen King extended universe going.
I would love that. I would love that.
I think they were talking about doing it with the Dark Tower, but obviously we saw where that happened. Did you catch the Maturin reference in the movie?
Yeah, in the first one. Yeah, when they were like, "Oh, I thought I stepped on a turtle."
So there's that. There in the first one, there's that, and then Bill has the Lego turtle in George's room.
That's right.
And then in the new
He's
one,
playing with it. Yeah.
In the new one, you'll probably hate this,
Of course I will.
When Bill's all drugged up and he's like, "Mike, what did you give me?" He's like, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just a microdose. It's like this root. It's a Maturin." He says it really fast. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
And then there's a turtle on the desk in Ben's classroom or something.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. By the way, let's bring that up real quick. So when they're supposed to go around looking for their artifacts, Ben has been keeping his artifact in his wallet for 27 years, so he doesn't have to go find it. It's already in his wallet. Just saying. Yeah. Like, why was it all of a sudden in his locker?
I don't think he went to the locker and got it out. I think just reliving that is what reminded him that was his artifact, maybe.
Well, he still pulled it out of the side of the locker.
He did?
So it made it seem like, it's actually before he turns around, because it's got that weird ass poster behind him with the guy with the really shiny teeth.
Right.
From that side corner, he pulls it out of the
Adult
locker.
Ben, yes? I thought it was Kid Ben did, yeah.
No, that yearbook thing. That's what he pulls out.
Yeah, but I thought Adult Ben didn't have to pull it out. It was Kid Ben that...
No, Kid Ben did it, but Adult Ben had it already. So It wasn't like he
didn't have to go to the school to get it.
Exactly.
It's more like he went to the school to be like, "Oh, so I guess this is my artifact."
Right. Well, I thought that silver was going to be Bill's artifact. I was like, how's it going to fit in that little fucking pot thing?
Yeah. Instead, it was the boat.
Oh, yeah.
I love the dialogue between Richie and Eddie about the things burning.
Yes. So look, I like reminiscing about the movie with you because it is funny. I will give it another shot. I can't go to theaters to see it again. I definitely can't. No.
Aww.
The next time I see it will either be when it's on HBO or when they do, or if they do the extended cut.
Yeah.
I
heard you say in your other It podcast that you like watching at home, and I do as well. But man, just the sound and visuals for that ending scene, like the big scene, it was really cool at the theater.
Well, I finally went to a theater actually for It 2 where it has the reclining seats, like the leather seats, and I actually had
nice theater.
Yeah, like a footrest thing. Like that I'm fine with. I will go to see, but I normally have very, very bad luck with theaters where there's someone talking, there's someone who keeps pulling out their phone, whatever it is. That's my issue with theaters more than anything else. It's the people. That's the problem.
If you ever make it out to Kansas City, there's only one that I ever go to. It's called Alamo Draft House.
Yes, I know that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things.
If you text or talk, you get one warning and they throw you out.
Love it.
The end.
I've only been to one theater that has done that before, and it was awesome. Because normally I don't like narcs. I don't want police around. I don't want security.
A movie though.
Yeah. Get out of here. Get out of here. So I do enjoy that. But yeah, and I've only been to Kansas City once in my life before. I had to do work at the Kansas State, the college that's around there, the one with the Jaybirds.
Jayhawks.
Jayhawks.
Yeah.
I did work there one time. So
gotcha.
that was the only time. But I enjoyed my time while I was there. There was this great wing place that was like right near there.
Yeah, Lawrence is like 45 minutes away from Kansas City. That's where I grew up.
Right. Oh, okay.
Well, I grew up outside of Lawrence. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
In the country.
That makes sense. Well, actually, let's transition for a second because we've already been going for a little while, but I did want to hit on this for sure. You had your brand new, actually, your debut album come out last month. I'm a big fan, even though I'm sure people wouldn't think that I would enjoy the style of music, but I really do. To me, the first thing, and I'm sure many people have said it to you, but anytime I hear your music, it sounds like it should be playing in the opening or closing of an anime.
I love that comparison, or not comparison, but that comment.
Oh,
it's a compliment.
Oh, good. Okay. And that's knowing you guys for a while, I figured that it would be, and it's truthful. It's like anytime I hear your music, I think it should be played in, the movie Turbo Kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I hear that it's that 80s electrono pop with rock built into it. And then like every once in a while you've got the screams in there as well, which I'm always a big fan of. So it really mixes things up very well. So the album's name is Interlinked. Mm-hmm. People can check it out right now for sure. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. And this is a very general question for you, but so singles came out around 4 to 5 years ago, right? That's when you guys were initially putting things out. What was the reason for, around 4 to 5 years between getting those out and then doing the full album?
Lots of member changes.
Yeah.
Housing, like location changes, inner band drama, like losing one member who we'd been buying a bunch of gear off of, like about 5-6K of gear off of. Wow. And then when that member was kind of booted, they were like, I'm going to count that as rental fees and I'm taking all the gear with me. And we're like, oh shit, well now we don't have a tour vehicle. We don't have this, we don't have that.
Gotcha.
And then just doing everything ourselves. We never hire anyone. We just partially to save money, but partially to keep creative control. And it takes longer. Yes. We do all of our own video,
great videos,
audio, everything is in-house. Yeah. I mean, we hire video companies around here to work with as far as cam ops and stuff, but I do all the editing and lighting and all that jazz.
Yeah, you guys are very innovative with your music videos. Always done really well. Now, you also mentioned you were shooting, and you don't have to say what song it's for, but you said you were shooting a music video the other day as well. How long do you think that's going to take to put together with all the editing and everything that you do to stylize it?
The video I was shooting last night actually is not for us. It was for
some... Well, do you have anything coming out for Interlinked?
I'm doing a live video for one of the tracks. Okay. We filmed that whole hometown headliner album release show.
Yeah, very cool.
And so that'll hopefully be out in like a month or so. And then I have an idea for I haven't cleared it with all of the band yet. Like kind of you were talking about the Turbo Kid soundtrack. It's like all retro wave, synth wave.
Yes. And
Los Matos actually did that soundtrack, and they're really good at that style. But I was thinking, a lot of us in the band are huge on synth wave and retro wave, but we're a rock band still,
right?
So we don't go all the way. But you can hear in a few tracks, like especially the intro track, like that we like that. I was thinking of doing maybe a remix EP to come out that's almost all synthwave in maybe like December, and then throw in maybe 1 or 2 new original songs or something.
Oh, very cool.
I have no idea if that'll be a thing, but
who knows? At least people are hearing it now. That's the point. So
then they can be disappointed later.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I find that's with all my podcasts, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But man, that's awesome. I did want to congratulate you because I know you guys put in a ton of work over the years, and then to have the album come out so well must have been like a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, that would have been a huge bummer if people were like, wow, all that time for this.
Exactly. But man, that's very cool. So what is next then for Young Medicine?
I think we have a fall tour coming up, and then maybe something like that EP. We have a collab song coming out soon with another artist that I'm a really big fan of called Essinger.
Oh, okay.
He's more of an electronic artist, but I'm sure you've seen the 80s movie The Lost Boys.
I definitely have.
Yeah, it is.
Great movie.
It's Lost Boys themed song.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's very cool.
It's written about that.
Nice.
And it's you can tell too when you hear it. It's gonna be weird. But good. And then hopefully shoot a few new music videos this winter and new material next year. I don't know if we're going to go back to putting out some singles again. I would like to. It's just less stress and gives us more time to kind of polish up each thing individually.
Right. No, that makes total sense. All right. Well, then let's go back to it really quick. Any closing arguments, any closing things you want people to know about or you want to push people to do based on the movie itself?
Go read the book.
There you go.
really, that's it. I feel like if you're a fan of the book, there's things you'll definitely love in both movies. Probably part one more so, but there's stuff in part two that I think if you're a fan of just the book and the lore of the book, it'll be cool to see on screen, even if it's just bits and pieces here and there.
Right. And you definitely take the more optimistic view than I do. That is for sure. And look, we have to do it because, it's the end of the show and I can't go a show about it without talking about it. But obviously you're not going to get that scene from the book. It's never going to come into a movie. It's never going to make it.
Maybe if Japan does an anime adaptation someday, that'll be in there. Those are the only people that would have the, I wouldn't say balls, but the
gumption. I don't know.
I guess. I don't even know the lack of dignity to throw that in.
Yeah. Look, I will say for sure, and I think I talked about it in one of the other podcasts, it made sense in the context of what they were trying to pull off.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to ever need to show that. Like, I'm a book purist, as you can tell. We've been talking about the entire time. But even I know you don't need that scene in the movies. You don't.
No.
But people be prepared. It's going to happen if you read the books and even the audiobook. They're not going to censor that kind of stuff. So
nope.
It will definitely happen. So let's go ahead. Let's close this out. Please, Josh, let everyone know how people can support you right now.
Support my band, Young Medicine. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We have a up and running merch now site with all of our new album gear, shirts, enamel pins, patches, CDs. We even got cassettes.
There you go. Very nice. And we will have links in the description of the episode to help with all of that for sure. So Josh, man, this was years in the making. Yeah. I'm very glad we were able to do this. Maybe if they want to squeeze more money out of this, they'll make a prequel or a sequel where the kids have kids, and then it comes back and they have to battle them again. I honestly, I would not put it past anyone.
I'd probably watch it.
I would too. I would too. Look, I watched Pet Sematary 2. Not even the reboot. I've seen all those shitty movies, so it happens. But man, I'm so glad we were able to do this. So once again, man, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been listening to Scene Daddy Interviews.
Thank you all for listening to Scene Daddy Interviews. Make sure you support the artists we featured by checking out the summary of the episode. Also, for all your scene news, reviews, and memes, make sure to follow Scene Daddy and Ian Hates on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe and rate Scene Daddy Interviews on your favorite podcast listening app for more great artist interviews in the future. Stay seen.